What's going on, everyone? Juice Bags here, and welcome back to the channel. Lots of folks already asking me what I'm doing with the Hunter. Now, this is not a min-maxed build. It's not a fully mathematically accurate or theory-crafted build yet. So I'm going to show you all what I currently am doing. However, do not rush out and blow all your resources trying to put this set together, because this is not a fine-tuned set. This is just a set of things that I had ready to go. Now, first off, I am going with a hero damage hunter. So we're going to be stacking the hero damage stat on every piece of gear that we have. Additionally, this particular hunter, or the hunter in general, gets 100% crit damage, or 100% crit chance, pardon me, while their buff is up. So with that in mind, you get 100% buff time. You want to ignore crit chance on everything and stack as much crit damage as you can. Right now, the way I'm sitting, I'm at 170%. And basically, I've just got hero damage, hero crit damage as the main roll and golly roll on every piece of armor. And then I'm going with hero damage chips. So it's quite debatable, and I haven't done the math yet. It could be better to go with like swap crit chips instead of swap damage chips, as you just want to stack as much crit damage as you can throughout the build. Now, of course, you don't want to take away too much from your base damage, so you don't want to completely ignore your hero damage stat, but you are going to want a healthy amount of crit in the mix. Now, as far as mods go, once again, healthy power, swap damage, damage buff, all the way around that we can. On the helmet, I've got pest repellent for some survivability against assassins. And on the chest, I've got snakeskin armor just for overall survivability. Now, it is important to note that you're still going to get slapped, and there is a new way that armor is calculated now. So using some more survivability, like maybe Bulwark, is going to be big for getting yourself able to stay alive a little bit more. Of course, I don't really sweat that. If I die, I wait to res and come back up, and rarely will lose any maps because of it. So I personally don't sweat the dying part very often. Additionally, remember, if you do something silly like jump in front of a hex thrower's projectile, you're going to get one tapped. That is kind of one of my favorite moves that I do quite often. And then on the weapon, we got the new mod Lucky Strikes, 8,260 hero damage and ability power each time you critically strike, which we got 100% uptime on crits, and it stacks up to 15. So this is an absolute ton of hero damage and ability power getting stacked on to what you already have. Now, of course, this is not an ability power build, but we do still use our abilities, so we're going to get some benefit there. Now, a few things to note here with focused power. We don't have a whole lot of cooldowns here. The healing orb, the cooldown doesn't start until the ball reaches its end, and then it's only a 5-second cooldown. So it's tough to rely on that for instant burst damage when you need it. The blood effigy does really, really nice, but additionally, its cooldown doesn't start until it ends its cycle, and it's a short cooldown as well. So essentially, we got two effective cooldowns. We get no cooldown at all on the wooden spike. So we have two cooldowns that we can rely on. We've got our pet cooldown, and we've got our buff cooldown. Now, as I mentioned, your buff time is 100%. However, it's like a millisecond. You actually keep it up the entire time, as far as when the icons actually disappear and when your crits start falling off. However, it seems like just a few milliseconds in between where the buff expires just before the buff's cooldown is back up. So there is just a little split second, and it seems it's just so close. Yeah, it's just like a split second. Now, keep in mind, I don't have a gilded extended cloak. Once I get this gilded, then the crit chance uptime will be 100%. But we went through all of the mods. The ring is kind of your choice. I'm using the Ring of Ice just because it's so ridiculously badass. And I'm using a Dragolich, which is not the correct pet. You would want to use, I use this for team play and so that my defenses get the buff. For single target pure numbers, you're going to want to use Poisonous Tips, Sandstorm, or the Cyclone pet. Poisonous Tips and Sandstorm will roll on any pet that has earth damage as its element. It's not tied to a pet type, it's tied to an element. So Poisonous Tips or Sandstorm on any earth pet. And then, of course, you can always get yourself an Automeow and then get Cyclone, which is superior slightly to both of those with a longer cooldown. Now, for shards, we are going with Inspiration. This is required to get your buff time down. So Inspiration and Hasten. Hasten is also a very important shard, increases your attack speed by 35%. Kind of a no-brainer. Exsanguination is questionable, whether or not it's needed. Now this, you're getting your resource by defeating enemies, which is quite awesome. But I haven't had literally any resource issues at all playing hero damage. So not 100% certain if that one is needed in the slot. For the gloves, Beacon of the Storm, completely optional because I just couldn't figure out what to throw in next. Normally we would have crit chance here, but we don't need the crit chance, so we're going with critical empowerment to get the increased crit damage. And then once again, with the hunter, it feels like there is maybe some options for the glove shot slots. So I went with long shot as the third. I don't always play from far away, particularly with the bow I'm using has a super slow projectile speed, but long shot is what I currently am using. Then on the chest piece, we've got Ambush, increases hero critical damage while the cloak is active. Once again, another absolute no-brainer. The build is all about stacking crit damage. This is a must. With that in mind, we got Coup de Grace. Increases hero crit damage by 50%, reduces your crit chance. Reducing our crit chance has no penalty because we've got 100% uptime or 100% crit chance with our buff. So this shard is only a positive. So straight up 50% crit damage. And then Power Gambit. Once again, it is a fine balance. You don't want to give up all of your hero damage as you need a base number for the crits to work off of. And then on the boots, we got a best in slot must-have boot shard besides Speed Boost. I'm going with Bunny Hop, Speed Boost, and then Extended Cloak. Increases cloaked duration by 2.5 seconds. This is going to be a top priority for me, getting this one gilded. This will take you up to 100% uptime, maybe even will get you to 100% uptime without a gilded inspiration. I'm not sure on that one yet, but Extended Cloak in the boots. Now on the weapons, we got Charged Shot. Charged Shot is one of the hardest hitting projectiles in the build. It's, in my opinion, it feels like kind of a no-brainer. It's a charged shot weapon. Use a charged shot shard. We're going with the new shard, Bloody Strikes. 22% chance on hit to bleed the target, dealing 35% of your hero damage stat as magic damage for 5 seconds. But bleeding enemies take 15% more damage. So you're getting an additional sunder, basically, as Sundering Blow, of course, is our third to lower resistances. So we're getting increased damage on the enemy from Bloody Strikes, and we're getting increased damage from Sundering Blow. Any of the boss bows would be just fine. You want to make sure you get a maximum shot type. So we're going with a 4 per second bow of the Phoenix on this one, with Focus Power, Lucky Strikes, and Bouncing Phoenix. Lucky Strikes is one of the new ones. It seems pretty good, and it seems pretty impactful once it gets stacked up. Bouncing Phoenix, of course, is just going to be best in slot on just about every hero damage type build in the game, on any hero. So Bouncing Phoenix for the win, and then Focus Power. Now, as I mentioned with Focus Power, we only have 2 reliable cooldowns. So we've got our pet cooldown, and we've got our buff cooldown. Those are the only 2 reliable cooldowns. Using this, I can hit spikes with all my cooldowns up of 35 to 40 million DPS. Remember, this is after the stat squish. That is equivalent to, 350 to 400 million DPS before. Let's take a look at it here once we get Drago off of cooldown. And here we go. Now, as I mentioned, you don't get your cooldown of your healing orb until the end, which is a little challenging here, but we are going to go ahead and see what we can do on this dummy here. It's stacking up. It's stacking up. We're not quite to where we want to be yet. Looks like we didn't hit very high numbers on that one. I have seen it as high as 40 million DPS, and, you know, this is about the lowest I think I've seen it here at the 20 million DPS mark. But remember, this is after the squish, so, you know, getting to 20, 30, 40 million DPS is not exactly terrible in DD2 right now, because that is just a big number overall when you're looking at after squish numbers. So just a work in progress build. As soon as there's some feedback from other folks and I bust out my calculator, we'll put together kind of a final hero damage build. But the TLDR, stack crit, ignore crit chance, and keep your buff up as long as you can. But that will do it for now. Thanks an absolute ton for watching, and I will see ya next time around. Take it easy.